Hello, if you're watching this video, it's because you've either are just about to have the MyEnergyEddy installed or you've had the MyEnergyEddy installed. And that's the hot water diverter that makes the most of your excess solar energy. I wanted to do this video just to briefly talk around tariffs and how this is going to work alongside your solar battery storage system. I wanted to talk around boiler controls and the different scenarios you may well find yourself in for your MyEnergyEddy, safety cutoffs and priority levels around Zappi EV car charging, alongside a couple of other bits and bobs as well. So we're going to get started with energy tariffs and how it's going to work. So in order to be able to have an idea of how energy tariffs work and operate and what a couple of drawbacks and a couple of tariffs are, I just wanted to briefly explain how your Eddy is going to work. So the first thing your MyEnergyEddy will work as a third priority if you have battery storage, a second priority if you don't have battery storage. And what that basically means is energy is generated on your roof. The first priority of your solar system is to meet the demand of your home. So if you've got a kettle on, if you've got your mobile phone on charge, if you're using your laptop, the first thing it does is any energy is going to firstly go to supply that. The second priority, this is how we set it up, although it can be changed, is for that energy to be pushed into your battery. When your battery's then full, you're out at work, it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, the battery's full. Before going out to the national grid, the next priority is for that energy to be diverted out into your MyEnergyEddy and start heating your hot water cylinder up. When the hot water cylinder is full, you'll either have your fourth priority, which will be your EV car, or it will just send it out the grid and start getting you those all-important smart export guarantee payments. Now, this is where tariffs come in. So if you're on a standard tariff, and what I mean by that is Octopus Flux, where you've just got one cheap night window, you charge it up cheap at night and use your system throughout the course of the day, and your battery just depletes to your home and your solar charges it up, then this isn't a concern to you. Your Eddy will work perfectly. However, if you're on Octopus Flux Intelligent, there are a couple of drawbacks to the MyEnergyEddy that you need to be aware of. So Octopus Flux Intelligent, instead of just meeting the home demand, what it's doing is actively looking at pricing on the national grid. So it may well be at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, there's a really high price for energy. So what Octopus do is go to your inverter, they say, you must send this energy out to the grid. You need to forcibly send it out to be able to make the maximum return investment for you and the customer. But what Octopus don't know at this point in time, we can't tell them because the Eddy doesn't have what's called an open API, so we can't communicate effectively with the Octopus Kraken. As far as Octopus are concerned, that energy, they want to force it out to the grid. But actually, what the Eddy does is go, they're trying to force energy out. It can't distinguish the difference between energy that's naturally going out and energy that's being forced out. It doesn't have that ability. So effectively what the Eddy does is go, I've got excess energy. I'm going to try and push that into my element and heat the hot water system up. So you as an end user might be a bit frustrated because you're going, why is my Eddy? I want my Eddy to stop taking power. I want to tell it that I'm trying to send this out the grid. I'm trying to make more money from my solar system, but it just simply doesn't work that way. The hardware can't communicate with one another and it can't communicate with the cloud. So effectively, that is one drawback. So if you're on Octopus Flux Intelligence, something that you need to be aware of is your battery is trying to force discharge out to the grid, or if you're using the demand flexibility service, the same thing works. So effectively, what you have to do, if you want it to force discharge, you have to manually pause the Eddy out in the app. Most people don't want to do that, and therefore most of the time, if you've got the MyEnergyEddy, you better go in on the standard Flux tariff and avoiding the Intelligent Tariff. If you do have the Intelligent Tariff and you really like and love it, that's okay. Your drawback, you just need to be aware of, if your battery's trying to send it out the grid, it's going to heat your hot water tank. When your hot water tank reaches temperature, it will continue to work as normal effectively. So it's just one little drawback when it comes to tariffs. The next thing I wanted to discuss was boiler controls. I get lots of questions around how to set boiler controls up, how to set your stat up. To a certain extent, there is a little bit of living with the system and kind of getting used to it. But what I've found is we effectively have two types and styles of customers. One type and style of customer is very much like my business partner Adam's mum, called Jill. She's based in Wilmslow. She's got 10 panels on her roof, and there are two people that live inside the household. So effectively, Jill's energy, as it's being generated, she has a 5 kilowatt battery. Energy gets generated, battery fills really quickly within a couple of hours. So by 11 o'clock, she's essentially got some excess energy. So what she does from about April through to about October is simply turns a boiler off and allows the Eddy to heat her hot water system. And because there's only two people in the home, they effectively have showers when it's all nice and warm. If it's a little bit cool for the day, they might miss a shower out. What that means is throughout the whole summer, Jill basically doesn't have a gas bill aside from a standing charge, which is brilliant. And then in the winter, she sets it up like person number 2 that I'm going to describe, which is probably a little bit more akin. I've not got it set up yet, but it's a little bit more akin to my family household. So this is whereby different people are taking showers at different points in the day. So like myself and my wife, we tend to have a shower in the morning, but my kids will have a bath of an evening, which means we use hot water at different times during the day. We don't really use much during the day. And because we use so much, I say I'm not got the setup yet, so to speak, but this is just a scenario for you. Because we use so much hot water, the Eddy simply wouldn't heat enough hot water in that cylinder. We would probably use more than one cylinder a day because we're running baths and stuff along those lines. So a bit of a high usage household. So in that particular scenario, what people want to do throughout the summer is work it in tandem alongside the boiler. We also get good and bad days worth of temperature. Some people go, I always want hot water in my tank. I don't really care where it's sunny. I just want it to work alongside. That also sits into the camp of number 2. So what you do in that scenario, and this would apply to Drayton, Hive, Nest, it doesn't really make much of a difference, to be honest with you, because all of them, what they do when you set it to heat hot water, they just send a call for demand to the boiler. They all do the same thing. So in this person number 2, what I found from speaking with various people is the fact that they'll set two timers, or maybe one timer, depending on when you use your hot water. Timer number 1 would be maybe an hour and a half in the morning. So it would say at 5 a.m. till 6:30. It's warming that hot water up with your boiler. So the boiler comes on and looks to warm the tank. Now, bear in mind, if the tank's still hot from the day before, the boiler only stays on as long as it needs until it's reached its temperature. When it's reached its temperature, the boiler will naturally shut off anyway. Showers are then had in the morning. Temperature in the tank now drops. Then during the day, Eddy then starts diverting this excess current. Now, if the Eddy hasn't diverted enough, so it's hot enough for the evening, this is where you have the second shift for the boiler. So you set another couple of hours, and you might say, well, look, everyone comes home at 5:30, 6 o'clock. So at 4 o'clock till 5:30, the boiler then fires itself back up again and heats that hot water as much as it possibly needs to do in order to be able to reach its temperature. The boiler then shuts off at 5:30. You've then got hot water. Now, if it's been a miserable day, the boiler will work hard. If it's been a boiling hot day and there's been loads of excess generation, the tank will be lovely and warm. Boiler will look to try and turn itself on, and effectively all that then happens is it shuts itself off immediately because the tank is lovely and warm, because there's a temperature thermostat within your tank. So that's how you'd work it. Now, for person number 1, a Jill scenario where she turns a boiler off in April, again, you could either turn your boiler off and bob it on boost if it was a little bit cold, and when you go into the winter, you would run it a little bit like person number 2. It takes a bit of getting used to. That's something you need to have and understand and play around with it a little bit in terms of physical timings, length of boiler settings. Your idea is to maximize what's happening on the roof to minimize your gas bill, essentially. And obviously different people will be different depending on the size of the solar system. If you have a really big solar system, and you use very little energy, you'll have a load of excess generation like Jill. Or if you're like me, who has a very similar size generation but uses loads of energy, then you've got slightly less generation, and therefore you need to use the boiler a little bit more. But the idea is either going to be completely grid independent or all the way to a scale of needing to use your boiler depending upon the actual physical time of the year. Now, something you need to be aware of, sometimes the Eddy can heat the hot water really, 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 really hot. That's another comment that I had, is my hot water is just so bloody hot all the time, which is great, obviously, because you've got loads and loads of excess solar generation. You can alter the temperature on the thermostat. So that's the thermostat for the boiler, and then there's a separate one on the immersion as well. So you'll probably be aware of the boiler stat already, but you might not be aware of the immersion stat, which can sometimes be different depending on your tank layout. So where the immersion element is, there's a little white plastic cover. There's a thermostat on the back of it. So you have to take the cover off, and you can simply just adjust it with a screwdriver, and it can turn the temperature down, all the way down as low as 30, 40 degrees, all the way up to I think 74 degrees or 78 degrees is normally the hottest a tank can go. The one thing I would say is don't turn it too low. You have to just consider Legionnaires there as well. So you want to be above a Legionnaire's temperature, but maybe a little bit lower than boiling. Again, something that you just want to have a little bit of a play with. The last thing I just wanted to talk was briefly about priority levels with the MyEnergy Zappi. So if you've also taken the MyEnergy Zappi as an option. Different people have different EV chargers depending upon their circumstances, but I know a lot of customers elect for the Zappi as a good product, again, made in the UK like the Eddi, and then they want to set it up as a secondary priority. So again, what will happen is solar generates to home, solar fills battery, solar diverts out to Eddi. If you've got some excess current, you can put in the Eco Plus Plus mode, and essentially as long as you've got at least 1.3 kilowatts in your car, worth of excess generation, it will look to start charging your car up. So that was just setting it up. We can change the priority level, so you could decide to charge your car first and go to the Eddi second. Most people don't. We kind of set it up on a weighted average basis of what the average person wants, but there are some ability to be able to change a couple of settings if you wanted to do so. Last but not least, I get a couple of people wanting to go, I've got a full battery and I've got a cold hot water tank. Can I force discharge out from one to another? So the answer is yes, you can just turn your Eddi element on within the MyEnergy app, and what the battery will look to meet the demand. Now, the MyEnergy Eddi can only take up typically on the average immersion element in between 2 and 3 kilowatts. So what will happen is if you turn that immersion element on, if you've got a full battery of an evening, you can look to deplete it. The downside to that, of course, if you run your battery, you could be buying premium rate electricity in from the national grid, and you could end up costing yourself more than you actually save. So that's the other downside. That's everything that I've got for now. Hopefully that describes a little bit more in terms of how your MyEnergy Eddi works. I'm sure if you have any other questions or queries that you're more than welcome to get in touch. We'd be happy to answer any of those at the best of our ability that we can do. I know we constantly bring out revisions of these videos because we always get new questions. So we'll keep you updated if we get anything else as well. Other than that, thank you very much for trusting our business. Thank you for using us. Hopefully you'll share the good word around all of your friends and family. The next video that you'll want to watch, if you haven't watched it already, is the MyEnergy app video as well, which talks you a little bit more in terms of your actual Eddi controls, what it can and what it can't do actually within the app as well. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. Bye for now.